Good evening, everyone. And Nancy, to you and your group, thank you very much for having us here this evening, an opportunity to meet folks from the San Fernando Valley. First and foremost, I just want to say, I'll start off with my qualifications. I spent 33 years in law enforcement. I worked my way through the ranks, started out as a police officer, became a deputy sheriff, and ultimately worked my way up to the number 2 position as undersheriff when I retired. I'm running for sheriff for a particular reason. I'm running because I have this core belief, and it's this fundamental belief that is inside of me, that in this country, every single person, no matter where you live in the San Fernando Valley, you live in the Malibu Hills, or you live out in the San Gabriel Valley, you live in Compton, no matter where you live, everybody in this country has a fundamental right when they go home to go home to a neighborhood where they feel safe and secure. That is the right of every single person in this country. When you go to your house, you should be able to stand in front of your own home at this time of the night and water your lawn. You should be able to walk your dog and have a sense of safety and security. You should be able to go for a jog in your own neighborhood, and your kids should be able to ride their bikes and scooters and play ball in the street. That is the right of every single person in this country, and it is a job of law enforcement to provide you with that environment. I have a history, 33 years in this business, of providing sensible solutions to fighting crime and making communities safer throughout the county of Los Angeles during my time as a police officer and deputy sheriff. In addition, government has to be responsible to the taxpayers at all times. There can be no excuse. In police work, our number 1 mission is to make your community safer. But our overriding responsibility in government is to be responsible with the taxpayer dollars. I'm a certified public accountant. I spent 20 years working for a CPA firm. In 2001, the Sheriff's Department went over budget by $25 million. At the time, the sheriff asked me if I would come inside from doing what I love to do, which is being a cop, and manage a budget, because he knew of my educational and professional experience as an accountant. I came in, and for the next 11 years, $1.7 to $2.8 billion, the budget grew. And during the course of the 11 years, we made budget every single year successfully. And at the same time, we managed to bring crime down and deploy resources in a sensible manner that continued to bring crime down to what was termed as historic lows. Now again, I'm also the mayor in the city of Gardena. I've been elected 5 times, and I've led a city, for those of you who have any knowledge of the history of that town, we were almost bankrupt. We've now gone to a place where we're $10.5 million surplus from a $5 million deficit. In addition, we've beefed up. I don't know of any other city in California that during the course of the last 15 years has beefed their police force up by 50%, from 65 officers to 96. And at the same time, we've brought crime down to really low numbers, and it always is a source of great pride when you hear community members tell you that they feel so much safer in town today. So long and short of it is, I believe that I have the qualifications, both from a professional law enforcement standpoint and from a fiscal standpoint. I'm not going to look to be bringing in anybody. I understand the budget. Nobody understands that budget better than I do. Nobody understands numbers and fiscal responsibility. And I've demonstrated that both with the Sheriff's Department and as the mayor of the city of Gardena, starting my 10th year this year. So I want to thank you again very much, and open it up for questions at this time. Yes, ma'am.
You said that you were the number 2 under Sheriff Tanaka, and I was just wondering, were you unaware of the challenges and problems in the department, or if you were aware, what did you do to make things better?
One of the first things that I was told when I announced that I was leaving by one of the other top executives, he said, you know, the day that you're leaving and actually walk out of this building will be a sad day, because it will be the last person that will actually stand up to the sheriff and tell him no. And it was not easy, and especially for you guys that served in the military, thank you very much for your service. You know what it's like to have a boss? As long as the orders he's not giving you are legal You have to follow them, or you will not be employed. And we did it. And the reason I'm running and the reason I decided to jump into the race in August, when there was all indications that the sheriff was going to run again, was because it was clear that the organization needed a new direction. It's a great organization. Nearly 18,000 dedicated men and women trying to make the streets of LA County safe for everyone. And we had lost our focus. And the focus is fight crime and make our communities safer and do it in the right way. And that was the part where I felt that I needed to jump into the race, because it became increasingly clear, and I encourage you to talk to anyone you know in the department. More and more, the sheriff and I differed philosophically on management and leadership, to the point where I had to step aside so that I could run against him. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. And then we'll come to you. Okay.
In watching prior elections for sheriff and what took place in the aftermath, now you have some candidates that are fellow candidates that are retired or that work with a different department. If you become the sheriff, and I see a lot of fine individuals as candidates, can you give us a guarantee that there won't be any retribution against these candidates who are still going to be on the department and whose livelihood and family are depending on them being there?
Sir, you know, it's a long time ago. I was taught a phrase. It says, "You never get ahead trying to get even." And even you know, no matter what moves you make, if people don't get their way, if they don't get to where they want to go, and some folks are going to feel that way. But if you look at my history, and you look both in the city and in the county, I don't spend my time going after people for vengeance purposes. It's always to go after the right people for the right reasons, to put them in the place that they need to be. Okay. Yes, sir.
Do you feel that law enforcement's duty to give us those safe neighborhoods override the individual citizens' right under the Second Amendment to defend themselves?
Safe communities is a partnership. It's a partnership between the police department, the sheriff's department. It's a partnership with all members of the community, whether it's Neighborhood Watch, whether it's service organizations, whether it's the schools. Okay, everybody plays a role, the families. But if you're asking me about the Second Amendment and where I stand on that, I support the Second Amendment to the letter of what the Ninth Circuit said, which is it is the right of an individual to bear arms and not a privilege. First one there, and then, yes, sir.
Yeah, you served under Lee Baca. What was your involvement with problems in the jailhouse with the 3000, and why was the main abuse allowed to go on for so long?
I was not in charge of the jails during the course of time that those incidents were occurring. You know, it's a large department. We have 70 different units, 11 different divisions. At that particular time, I was in charge of patrol and investigations and Homeland Security. But I will tell you this, regardless of whether I was in charge of it, the fact is, in 33 years of law enforcement, I have never tolerated or encouraged the use of force or misconduct on the part of a law enforcement officer or any government employee in any way, shape, or form. I never have, and I never will. Yes, sir.
Well, we've met a couple of times already. I've had an opportunity to speak to you, and I'll never criticize a cop on the beat because I know what it is from the boot all the way up to admin. My question, again, I like the fact that you're a CPA and you have admin skills as well in accounting. What are the three top things you see within the judicial end of incarceration that you would like to correct to bring the budgets down? Because we're spending too much on incarcerating these individuals to the point to where an inmate actually has better health care services and more dollars spent per head than our military veterans have.
Yes. You're right. And first of all, it is a travesty about the way that we treat our folks that go over and fight for our country, and when we come back, we leave them to fend for themselves. Okay. That is unspeakable. Number one, because of AB 109, because the state kicked the can down the road, and they decided to populate and overpopulate county jails with what should be state prisoners. Okay. First of all, we've got our own problems with overcrowding in LA County. as do all the other counties. And I've talked to the sheriffs from the different counties. It's all relative. Some of them only have a county of maybe a bed space of 400, but if they have 500 prisoners, that's too many. The fact is we have to make room, and we have to address it not only from the point of making bed space, but also from a fiscal point that you're discussing. Number one, there's a lot of people in jail that are low-level, first-time offenders, maybe even habitual drug users, who are not really criminals at heart, but they've gotten themselves in a vicious cycle. They can't get out. There are folks that need to be out. They can be home they can be home and sleep in their own bed Sunday through Saturday. Monday through Friday, they report to work on work release. And there's a lot of community service that you can do on behalf of the communities to pay your debt to society. There are programs, live-in facilities for people who need to get off their addiction. You can move people out, and a more concerted effort needs to be made to get folks into these programs so we can help them get back on their feet and become a productive member of society. We are the largest de facto mental institution in the state, and we're a jail, and that's another travesty. And what needs to happen is the sheriff needs to take a tall stand along with county, state, and federal officials and come up with the facilities to move those out of those jail facilities where it's very expensive. The most expensive prisoner to house is someone that has mental illness, and move them into facilities where they can get expert medical treatment instead of being watched by jail deputies.
No, we don't have time. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Paul.
thank you all very much. Thank you.